Leaders, today we are convening within the esteemed hall of the United Nations to confront a pressing issue that resonates with every one of us, the ever-increasing threat of climate change. This trend transcends boundaries, ideologies, and socio-economic divisions, casting a shadow over every corner of our globe. From the icy expanses of the Arctic to the sweltering heat of the equatorial regions, the impact of climate change are undeniable and increasingly dire.
Let us now turn our attention to the enlightening panel discussion organized by Grade 7 on this critical issue. It is imperative that we lend our ears to the insights shared and grasp the urgency of addressing climate change before its devastating consequences become irreversible. And to deepen our understanding further, I invite the students of Grade 7 to perform and discourse with their perspectives and creativity. Please welcome them with a huge round of applause.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, delegates, and participants. I'm Nishad Shafi, an environmental activist and speaker. Want to create awareness about climate change and sustainable goals. Welcome to today's panel discussion on climate change organized by the United Nations. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. One of the most iconic quotes of English literature and also from one of my favorite novels. Today I would like to share with you briefly not a tale of two cities but a tale of two planets. Earth and Venus are essentially the same size, essentially the same distance from the sun, and both have exactly the same amount of carbon. The difference is that over time on Earth, the carbon has been trapped in the ground in the form of coal, oil and natural gas, whereas on Venus, the carbon is in the atmosphere. The difference is that on Earth, the average temperature is around 50 degrees, whereas on Venus, the average temperature is around 850 degrees. Not just because it is slightly closer to the Sun, Mercury is closer to the Sun and is 3 times cooler than the Venus. This is very relevant to our grand strategy of especially developing nations of taking as much ground-based carbon and injecting it to their atmosphere. Ladies and gentlemen, we must responsibly consider that what we will be debating today, the climate crisis, is something where the consequences are not local, they are global. It affects all of us and particularly is up to show you in the few minutes the developing nations when came to address the Union. He stated that the industrialization of the West was based on the deindustrialization of the developing countries. Climate change poses one of the greatest challenges of our time, and considered international efforts are needed to mitigate its impact and build a sustainable future for all. Today, we have gathered esteemed experts and representatives to share their insights and perspectives on this critical issue. Without further ado, let's begin our discussion. On our panel, we have Dr. James Hansen. He is a climate scientist in NASA. Mr. Muzahirul Alam, Regional Coordinator on Climate Action, representative of a small island developing states. Mr. Zizong Hua, he is a Chinese policymaker on climate change. And next is and finally Mr. Russell Raymond, is youth climate activist that fights climate change in Caribbean island Dominica. And our dear audience, to kick off our discussion, let's start with Dr. James Hansen. Sir, could you provide us with an overview of the current state of climate change including its impacts?
Thank you, Nishan. Climate change is no longer a distinct threat. It is happening now and affecting communities worldwide. According to new indicators set record are greenhouse gases concentration, sea level rise, ocean heat and ocean acidification. We are witnessing rising temperature, more frequent and intense extreme weather events. The scientific evidence is clear. Urgent action is needed to limit global warming well below 2 degrees Celsius and preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid catastrophic consequences.
Can you give insight to the impact of climate change and what urgency can be done?
Well, the impacts of climate change are wide-ranging. For example, rising temperature, extreme weather events, hurricane, floodings, as well as recently occurred in UAE, and water scarcity as well. It's urgent, requiring immediate and concerted action from governments, businesses, communities, and individuals worldwide.
Thank you, Dr. Jain, for setting the stage. Now I would like Mr. Mazarul Alam as a representative of a small island developing states. Sir, could you share your country's experiences and challenges in dealing with climate change?
Certainly, Nisha. Small island states, developing states like ours are on the front lines of climate change. We are experiencing the impacts first from coastal erosion, water to saltwater intrusion into freshwater sources. Our economies, livelihoods, and cultures are at a risk. Despite our minimal contributions to global emissions, we are under proportion affected. Urgent action is needed from international community to support our adaptation and address the root causes of climate change.
Could you tell us the latest findings on this?
Of course, the latest findings are long-term sea level data sets that show the ocean surface height rising and rising after decades of observations. Sea ice at both the top and the bottom continues to decline in 2024. Water around Antarctica shrank to near historic lows third year in a row. The recoiling loss hints at long-term shift in southern ocean likely resulting in global climate change.
Thank you for highlighting the unique challenges faced by small island developing states. As the representatives of the United Nations, it's crucial to recognize China's stance on the climate change. Being the most contributor to greenhouse gases, for this, Mr. Xi Jinping, how is your country doing, particularly within its own borders?
Thanks, Tisha. China, as the world's most populous nation and one of the largest economies, faces unique challenges and opportunities in addressing climate change. Over the past few decades, China has experienced rapid industrialization and urbanization, which have contributed significantly to global greenhouse gas emissions. However, China has also become a global leader in renewable energy investment and technology deployment. In recent years, the Chinese government has increasingly acknowledged the severity of climate change and the need for urgent action. China has committed to ambitious targets for reducing its carbon intensity, increasing the share of renewable energy in its energy mix, and peak carbon emissions by 2030.
Thank you, Mr. Xi Jinping. Now, Mr. Jimsky, as a CEO in the renewable energy sector, how do you see your businesses are addressing climate change as discussed by Mr. Xi Jinping?
Thanks, Vishal, to having me on this panel. Well, businesses need supportive policy. Businesses needs a crucial transition to a low carbon economy. Investing in renewable energy and sustainable practices not only reduces emissions but also enhances competitiveness and resilience. However, businesses need supportive policies, incentives, and a clear regulatory framework to accelerate the transition. Collaboration between the public and private sector is key to unlocking the full potential of renewable energy and green innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Jimsky, for emphasizing the importance of collaboration and innovation. Here, I would like to take some questions from our young audience to see that what they have in their young minds.
Yes, I have a question. How can we as a student save this climate change situation for our future well-being?
I would like to have the answer from Mr. Jimsky.
Of course, well, at your part, you can fight overuse of natural resources. Do not use or buy items made from plastic, and last but not least, avoid using carbon reducing vehicles to reduce carbon emissions.
Very precise, Mr. Smith. Let's take one more question from our audience.
I know humans are adding to greenhouse gases. I wonder are there any natural causes for climate change?
Excellent question. But why to blame the humans always? I would ask from a climate scientist, Dr. James, please.
Yes, there are variety of causes of climate change that are natural, some of which operate over long time scales. Natural processes such as wildfire and decomposition of organic matter release carbon dioxide and methane into atmosphere.
Thanks, Dr. James. Lastly, Mr. Russell, as a youth climate activist, what do you think? What action do you believe are necessary to mobilize global action on climate change?
Thank you, Nisha. Good to be here.
the science, prioritize climate action in the policies and investments, and engage with diverse stakeholders, including youth and indigenous communities. Our future depends on the decisions we make today.
Mr. Russell, can you conclude this discussion for sustainable future actions to be taken?
Yes, this metric cannot be overstated. We stand at a critical juncture where a decisive action is not just an option, it's a moral imperative. As we deliberate new strategies to adapt to the adverse effects of climate change, let us remember our shared responsibility of protecting and safeguarding our planet. Today's discussion is not just about policy and agreements, it's about securing the very future of our planet Earth.
Thank you, Mr. Russell, for your passion plea for action. As we conclude our discussion, let us reaffirm our commitment to step our joint efforts to triple planetary crisis: nature and biodiversity loss, pollution and waste. All collective actions among countries are required to mitigate the climate